It's a Monday night, and these episodes come out on Tuesdays, and I'm recording this introduction to this show, and I found myself again wanting to say that I've got a fun episode ahead, and then I realized a couple of things. Number one, I think I might say that about every episode, which I suppose might start diminishing the statement itself, but they have been fun episodes, and B, I guess that's a good sign that it's been a fun show. So anyway, I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. And this was a fun conversation with my guest today, Katie Mann. Katie is a coach, and particularly she is a fitness and strength coach and has been for many years now, but wasn't always. In fact, in our conversation, we kind of walked back in Katie's story to some key moments of her life, and she had a whole previous life that was completely different than being in the health and fitness industry. And we'll touch on that more later. But really, we talked about this foundational element of what is coaching? What does that mean to Katie, and how does she approach it?
My job as a coach is to make someone feel like they're capable when they thought they couldn't. When they felt like they weren't capable.
We talked about this powerful idea that the coach's role is to see people for who they are and what they're capable of, and sometimes push them and challenge them and encourage them to get there. And we talked about how sometimes we need this coach role in our lives because we do this thing where we just tell ourselves these lies.
My work is to remind people that they're greater than the lie. My work is to get the sweat going, get the heart rate going, peel off those layers of ew, yuck, junk, things that we put on. Peel those off so that you're like, oh, there you are.
And so in this process of peeling back those layers and seeing what's there and kind of discovering and finding and challenging ourselves, we can build a really fulfilling and meaningful life. Anyway, in this episode, you're going to hear Katie and I talk about the power of being seen and the moments in Katie's life when people saw her for her talents and her abilities and the profound impact it had on her life. Katie shares some of the decision-making process that went through her mind as she made some of these big changes in her life and what sort of the signals were that she noticed that told her it was time. Of course, we talk about this role of her as a coach and what coaching means and ultimately why coaches need coaches as well. And lastly, we had a fun part of the conversation where we just kind of talked about the idea of being creators and the delicate process and balance of finding peace between our passion for offering something to the world and also wanting to see tangible results. All right, that's all ahead on this episode of A Level Deeper. Here's my conversation with Katie Mann. Katie, I've been looking forward to this conversation. You have been almost like this mystical voice in my life, and I'll explain that in a second. So, My wife, Eileen, as we have been traveling, especially over the last 18 months, she has very religiously taken your strength classes that you teach at the Space, which is where, for those of you who have listened to the episode with Kelly McMullen, that's the Space. And, I say you've been this almost kind of just mystical voice because I have heard in remote Alaska and on the Pacific Coast Highway and down in Texas and in Key West. I mean, in every part of the country, I have heard the voice of this woman encouraging my wife to, do many things. One of the things that I have heard probably the most coming through these mystical speakers is a phrase, a very simple phrase, a 3-word phrase that goes a little something like yes or yes. And give us a little context as to what that means to you and maybe fill in some of the blanks as to how you use that in your classes.
Yeah, Chad, first of all, what an honor to travel with y'all all around the U.S. I always tell my clients that are traveling.
Many places.
Yeah, I wish I could actually, I think you need a trainer traveling with you. So if you ever want me to shoot over in the van, I'm available.
Deal.
But yes or yes actually came from one of my coaches that I had, Donna Thomas, who every coach needs a coach, right? And a lot of my coaching comes from putting myself in a position that I put my clients in, that I ask my clients to do, right? So you're in a plank, let's just say, and the fear comes up, the doubt comes up, oh shit, I want out, all the things. And we trump it with the truth of yes or yes. Can I do this? Yes or yes. Let's kind of time out those lies that start to come up when we're put in these difficult situations. Let's trump them with the truth and override our mind with the positive affirmation of yes or yes. Let's go. Let's go. I think Kelly touched on this and I want to doubly touch on it. We put our clients, especially in the strength, into these difficult situations to make you rumble with your mind. We peel off the layers in the sweat, in the intensity, in the heavy weight, in the burpee, in the plank. We get you to this super uncomfortable place. And then we kind of rumble with like, holy cow, what's coming up? Doubt, uncertainty, sweat, my knees hurt, my legs hurt, I'm too old. All these things start to spiral. And then I'm there as the coach to be like, but wait, let's go to the mindset. Let's practice changing it. Let's practice working with yes or yes. Let's practice with a positive affirmation. Let's practice dialing in the mind and shutting down all the negativity. And that's what we practice at this space. That's what we practice in the strength. Because life is going to come at you with 100 things, shitstorms, I call them, right? Here comes the shitstorm. So the more that we can practice staying in our yes or yes, I can do this. I could do this. I've held a 2-minute plank. I can do this. The better we are to tackle these like shitstorms as they come up.
Yeah, it's a reminder of self-belief, right? And
100.
It's like, and yet how often do we need maybe some external voice reminding us of what we are capable of? Because you talk about some of these lies that we tell ourselves, and what are some of those biggest lies that you think that we're constantly saying internally?
Gosh, for me, it's like, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I can't do this. That's for someone else. That's for Katie, or that's for Kelly, or that's for Chad. I'm not going to shoot. I told myself a lie coming on here. Why me? Why would you want me? Right. And then it's like, no, Katie, you practice this. You practice the affirmations. You practice the positive self-talk. Maybe the lie is going to come up, and then we trump it with the truth. My coach, she tells me, I have another energy coach, and she's like, Katie, check in, stop telling yourself lies. And we do it all the time.
Why do you think we do that to ourselves?
I just think it's ingrained in, the old stories from probably when we were little. Something creates that in us, and without the work and without reminding yourself or having that outside voice to remind you that, hey, look, I see you differently. That's a lie. We can get stuck in the shitstorm. So it takes the interruption and being like, no, you know what? That's actually not true. But it takes work. And that is what I get to do as a coach. Like, how lucky am I? My work is to remind people that they're greater than the lie. My work is to get the sweat going, get the heart rate going, peel off those layers of ew, yuck, junk, things that we put on, peel those off so that you're like, oh, there you are. There's your heart, beautiful, pumping for you. There's your mind, incredibly capable of keeping you in the game. There's your legs that have walked you through some of the shittiest storms. All that stuff working together for you is so incredible. And how lucky are we? And how lucky am I that it's my job to remind people that it's all in there. Let's just let's sweat it. Let's breathe together. Let's move together. Let's shake the junk out so that we can find what's buried in there. And it's truth. It's truth that you are strong. You are capable. You're so much wiser than you think. I have people come to me all the time, Chad, and they're like, I'm going to come to your class when I get there. I'm just not there yet. I'm just not ready yet. And I'm like, sweet, tell me about there. What's that going to look like? Like, is it like when you're like, oh, okay, I could do 5 push-ups, so today I'm going to come. Well, you're already there. Come, let's figure it out. Let's move. You're going to start to shake up the shit and you're going to be like, oh, that's a lie I was telling myself, that I'm not there yet. You're there. Come move, feel better. I'll show you.
It's so interesting to me how we do that to ourselves. You know, we create these mental barriers, mental limits, whatever it may be. And we say, well, I can't do that until I've blank, until I've achieved something, until my body looks a certain way, until I'm capable of doing something physically or mentally. Or, I mean, I do this stuff to myself constantly, all the time. And I guess I just appreciate that reminder that, you know, there's no there. Nate, who was the first guest on my show, talks about the process of like his whole brand is around the idea of getting there. And we are constantly in a process of getting there, and it's never going to actually happen. So if we can just flip our mindset to like, no, there's no destination. I'm on this journey. I'm on this process, right? That's kind of what you're saying.
100%. I mean, it's like, you might get to the point where I'm just going to use strength as an analogy. I mean, it's like, oh, I got there. I'm lifting the 12-pound weights. Next week, you're going to be like, I'm going to pick up the 15-pound weights. There's no like, now I'm there. You may be like in the van, golly, I can't wait to get to Alaska. You get to Alaska and now you're like, now I want to go to Turks and Caicos, you know, like, let's go. Right? I'm not there at 41 years old. I don't ever want to be there, because when we get there, we're essentially throwing in the towel that we're done growing. And I don't ever want to be there. I
mean, I'm with you. You know, I look at my life the same way, as far as I'm on a constant process of trying to become this better version of myself every single day. And I just hope that never ends. I don't hope. I'm never going to let it end, you know?
Same. I love how you said that.
I think it's the most fulfilling mission that we can be on. And okay, so I think it's always interesting when I meet someone like you, and I meet you in this moment and in this version of your life, right? And you are a coach. I see you as someone who has, I see you as someone who is inspirational. I hear you. I talk about this mystical voice, but I hear you as someone who has a lot of confidence and clarity in their message. You know, you speak very intentionally. Like you're not mincing your words. You're not beating around the bush. You're very direct. And I mean that in the best way possible, but you use your words and you speak very intentionally. And I think when we meet people like you in this chapter of your life, it can be easy to assume, and it just becomes my fascination. I'm like, Did Katie just come out of the womb and she was just like, hey, mom, yes or yes, you know, let's do this thing. Let's go. And so I guess just walk us back, like this role of coach and the person that we are encountering, the Katie that is teaching these classes and the Katie that is coaching, you know, the clients that you coach. Has this always been the Katie that has shown up in life? I started this podcast for a very specific reason. I crave meaningful conversations and wanted to create an outlet to have more of them in my life. By recording discussions I was already having with friends and new conversations with new people, I guess I just wanted to bring deeper, more thoughtful conversations to a larger audience, because I think we all have an opportunity to grow from them. I got to tell you, it makes me uncomfortable to do so, but I'm asking for your help. I'm imagining a show funded by the people who want to support deeper conversations. So for the cost of 2 coffees per month, you can help keep this show going, and as a thank you, get access to some exclusive behind-the-scenes content that isn't available anywhere else. In the episode description is a link to our Patreon where you can pledge your support and automatically get access to all the bonuses. So after the show, I'd love if you'd head there and check it out, and thank you in advance for your support. Okay, back to the episode.
What a great question. Funny, I've always been loud. I have always been loud. I mean, my brother used to be like, oh my God, so loud. And I think what a gift that I've taken my loudness and been able to share it with the world in a positive direction. No, I mean, I wish I could say I've always been just confident and just a cheerleader for the people. I think I've always had this inner joy. I don't know if you know this, but as a young child, I had childhood leukemia. I was diagnosed at 2 and I went into remission when I was 5 years old. And childhood leukemia is cancer of the blood. And because I was so young, it was my parents' journey with me, right? I never really, I can't say I battled cancer. I did, but it's not my story. My story, and I think where my joy in my body and showing up to be like, you have this beautiful life, this beautiful vehicle, this gift of feeling well enough to move today comes from that, Chad. Knowing that, listen, I've always had this knowing from my leukemia that God has me here for a reason and that I get to show up in this body, and every day that I get to do that is a gift. So from that comes gratefulness, joy, just this awareness of I get to do this today. And I think a lot of us wake up in the morning and it's like, ugh, another day. And so again, what a gift that I get to remind the people that when they're moving, your body's moving today, your nose is allowing you to breathe, your legs are carrying you through, your arms are strong enough to pick up a weight. It's a gift. It's a gift because there's oodles of people who wish they could be in the very place that you are today. So gratitude for that, gratitude. And when we start with a heart of gratitude, it's only up from there, right?
This childhood experience of leukemia, being as young as you were when you went through that, it's kind of interesting in how you're reflecting back on that and the impact that it had on you. I guess, at that time, from your memory, what was that experience like, or is this perspective that we're hearing, is this something that you've gained later on in life as you think back to that experience? I don't know. Tell us about where this perspective of just kind of being grateful to be alive and to be here, where did that come from, or how did that develop?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of great memories from when I was sick. I just feel like I was young. My parent, I do consider myself a survivor. I do consider myself a warrior. I do, look at the fact that my body chose to stay in this life, stay in this universe. And what a gift. Thank you. I say it all the time in my classes. Thank you, body. Thank you, body, for choosing to stay here. And it reminds me, Chad, that I am lucky enough to be here and I want to serve. I want to serve as my parents served me to take care of me. How may I serve? And, it's always been kind of on my heart, this idea of why does God have you here? And when I found fitness, it was like this light in me. It was like, this feels so incredible. And I was like, this is it, Katie. Don't dull yourself down. Don't pull back. When you find the thing that sets your soul on fire, go towards that. And I know it's like cliche and people say it. And Chad, as cliche as it is, that's how it happened for me. I was like, the cancer gave me the knowing of like, you have this one big and powerful life. Now, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? And, I actually was a dental hygienist. I went to the University of Michigan. I actually went to Michigan State and I was going to be a dentist. I was like, but I call my Michigan State years myself, my personal growing years, if you will.
Okay.
It came time to get real and apply to dental school. And I was like, wow, I don't really want to go to dental school. I want to be a mom. And I want like something with a little bit more flexibility. I'm going to be a dental hygienist. So I pivoted. I applied to University of Michigan between my junior and my senior year at Michigan State. I finished Michigan State. I got into University of Michigan. I went 3 more years for dental hygiene at Michigan. So I could have been a doctor. I've been a long time of college. I went to Michigan. I got my degree as a dental hygienist. I worked in hygiene for 10 years, all the while teaching fitness because it was kind of just like, I loved it so much. And one day I was like, not one day, it was a lot of days. I was like, wow, I'm just punching a time clock here. I'm like, this is a great career. It makes great money. I love the science. I love the people. And I'd rather be teaching fitness full time. I'd rather be like not toning down at work and then showing up to my like night job and being like, here I am, actually like living my best life. I tell my clients, I'd be cleaning their teeth. I'd be like, I really want to do fitness full time. And they'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It's going to happen one day. And so finally one day my husband was like, listen, he's like, I'm going to be traveling a little bit more for work. I go, I'm giving my 2 weeks. And he was like, wait, what, right now? And I was like, Casey, I'm going. I'm pivoting. I gotta get out. I'm living a lie over here. I'm preaching, live your best, one and precious, amazing life. Like, do the thing that sets your soul on fire. And then I'm going to hygiene and like, I'm like popping handstands with like the doctors on the wall. I'm like, I wish we could be doing push-ups, you know? Then I go clean another tooth. And so I pivoted. And Chad, I've never looked back. I quit my career to do the thing that sets my soul on fire. And people will ask me all the time, what do you take? What's your pre-workout? How do you get so excited? I'm like, because this is what I'm meant to do. This is where the universe has led me. This is what sets my soul on fire. I could be having the very worst day and I show up and I'm like, so like I encourage everyone, what is it? What is that for you? Because I know it sounds cliche, but if the universe is nudging you to pivot, fucking pivot. Pivot. Stop wasting your life.
Okay, so I want to walk back to 2 moments in this story, in this journey. The first one is, when you talked about when you first found fitness, and it was like clear to you that, this was something that lights you up. I guess just talk us through that experience. What did it feel like? How did you recognize that this was something that was going to be a part of your story and your journey? Because I think so many people, I think we all experience moments like that in our life where we recognize something seems to click or something seems to feel a different in a good way. And then, I had an episode recently and then our minds start going and we say, oh no, that was just a weird moment, or, I'm not sure what that was. That didn't really make sense. I'm just going to keep kind of going on with what I was doing. So I want to go back to this moment where you find fitness.
Yeah.
What was that experience actually like, in what made you sort of tune into and recognize, okay, there's something here for me?
Yeah. So I think I found fitness when I was a baby, to be honest. I started dancing when I was 3, and I've always kind of run to it for self-regulation. I don't think I knew that in the beginning, but it was always, even at Michigan State, I'd be like, I'm going to go work out. And I would go to this gym, like off campus. Everyone would go to the powerhouse to like see and be seen. It was like the bar on campus, only in a gym atmosphere. And I was like, no, I gotta like go. I gotta be with me. So I would like peace out. But specifically, I had my children and I needed a place to self-regulate. I needed a place to find other women in community. And I needed to have an hour to myself. And so I found Lifetime Fitness in Novi, where I could check my kids into the childcare for an hour. And I was like, Mama gonna be upstairs. And I would get in those classes and I would just be vibing. And one day, the teacher who I always wanted her to know me was like, hey, do you want do you want to do this? Like, I see you. And I was like, how'd you know? And she's like, I can see you. And it was like in there, and it took someone to see me, right? I auditioned at Lifetime, and I'm going to throw it back to one of my coaches down at Thomas, who was from corporate at Lifetime, and I had to audition. They're a big corporate entity. And I was a brand new newbie, and she's like, I don't remember how my audition went, but I do remember the words she said. She said, I'm going to take a chance on you. You're going to be good for this company. And I was like, fuck yes. And I mean, I've never looked back. My classes started growing at Lifetime, and that is a big place. And I was like, I could do this all day long. There's no absence of energy here. There's not a day that I wake up that I'm like, I don't want to go here. Of course, we all have our off days. I'm not going to say I'm like super human. But it just is this like lightning feeling. And I think when you feel that and the energy is vibing so high, it's undeniable, right? Things are going to come to you. You know, vibrational energy is a real thing. So when we're vibing high and we're putting out this like, this is where I'm alive. This is where I feel amazing. This is where like all things are working for me for my good. Guess what? More opportunities are going to come to you. And they have. I was like, I want to work in my community in Brighton, Michigan. And I ended up meeting Kelly McMullen. And I was like, I want to work for her. And one day she came to my class. I was working at a teeny tiny dance studio, blessed up for my beginnings in Brighton. And she was like, I see you again. And I was like, let's go. She goes, you want to work for me? I was like, yes, at a yoga studio. I do strength and hits. I'm like, yes, let's combine vibrational energy. Let's go. So again, back to your question. I think if the energy is there, you're going to attract everything that the universe wants to send to you. Versus vibing down here where it's like, I'm in hygiene. This feels yucky. I'm here another day, just punching the time clock, trying to get out of here. When's my day over? Okay, I got 4 more patients. All right. When can I get to the studio to teach my class? And of course, I stuck around for a while because it was, I think, one of your past guests. It's like, we're following the script, right? I went to school. My parents spent a lot of money to send me to school. It wasn't easy. My dad worked his ass off. My husband was like, you're leaving a great career to teach fitness. And I was like, babe, don't worry. Where the universe guides me, it will provide for me. And he was like, what? Okay. And it has, Chad. It has.
It's one of those things where it can be easy to sort of look back and say, you know, you saying to your husband, if the universe is going to guide it, it's going to provide. And yeah, I think sometimes it can be sort of easy to look back and say like, well, of course, like, look at what's happened, you know?
Yeah.
But in a moment like that, especially with your husband, where you're kind of like, hey, I just believe that this is going to work. I'm imagining based on the story, maybe your husband was more of like I have been in many versions of my life, the kind of like logical, like, well, wait a minute.
Yes.
What's the plan? How is this going to work? You're making, you know, this much money and you've got this much security and stability. How is this? So I guess I'm kind of curious about how that process from a relationship standpoint even kind of worked, as you were very in tune with believing that it was going to happen. It was going to work and the right things were going to align. How do you interface with someone who's maybe not seeing it that way?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. And I have to believe in myself ultimately, right? I had to be my number one cheerleader. And we always, it's me with me, right? And I'm like, trust me, let me try this. Let me see how it goes. And honestly, Chad, I I am so grateful for him for having my back because he is the logical one. And he's like, Katie. I'm like, but I won't be driving back and forth to Ann Arbor, so there'll be a little savings there. And we won't have to put the kids in daycare, so there'll be a little savings there. Again, I know it's like, it seems like a fairy tale to be like, leap, do it, go. And it's worked. And I can't tell you how. I cannot tell you how. I just feel that, again, God's got my back. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, with nudges up, of course. I'm not staying here. But, when you say, like, where do you want to be? I'm like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. One of the things I just, being able to talk to you, I wanted to kind of expand. How can I serve more? Right. I'm pretty comfortable teaching now. I'm teaching in Brighton. I've been teaching in Brighton, Michigan for, gosh, I don't know, I don't know how long I've been here. I should know that. Anyways, I'm comfortable. I've been doing it a minute. So then my next kind of thing was, how can I expand my audience? Listen, I get to talk to you, which is the universe working for me. I get to expand my audience. If one person hears my story and I trigger something in them to change the way that they think about their life, blessed up. And that's something that I say every single time before my class. Listen, I don't care if I have 5 people in my class. I started here in Brighton with 1 person in my class. At Lifetime, I had 70 people in my classes. It's like, if I always remind myself before I start my day, before I start my classes, Katie, if you can help 1 person today, you did your job. That's it. What a gift to be able to be like, I helped someone today. And I don't care if someone like comes up to me and tells me. I do have an amazing job where someone's like, quite often they're like, that was awesome today. Or they're like, that was hard. And you know what my answer to that is? Good. That was hard. Good. I'm helping you because life's hard. Life's going to be hard. So the more we practice the hard, the better.
I'm curious about this relationship to, I'm going to call it the numbers, right? As a fellow creator, someone who is, we're creators. We're creating something. We're putting it out into the world. It's all an offering. This podcast is a creation of mine in collaboration with people like you, and we put it out into the world. And that relationship with impact versus numbers, I would be lying if I never said that. I don't get bogged down by thinking about, I just feel like these conversations are so rich and so meaningful. And, then I compare it to other podcasts that are so shallow and they get millions of views. And I'm just like, why don't these conversations reach more people? Do you ever get caught up in that?
I used to, for sure. And there are days where I'm like, why is that person getting so many numbers and my number? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a human, 100. And I always go back to that mantra. If I get to help 1 person today, which I don't know if, I think you probably know, just having a really impactful one-on-one conversation with someone, 1 person, you change that person's day. You change maybe their life. You change their outlook. You gave them something to like ruminate on that is going to change this guy up here. What a blessing. How many people can say that they get to do that in their life? Mm. How many people choose to do that, to change even 1 person's day? Like, what a gift. And so, again, there's the lie, right? I'm only reaching 1 person. I'm only reaching 5 people. Listen, if our number 1 goal is to serve 1 person, blessed up. And the universe will reward that.
Well, it's such a great reminder. And I think especially a reminder when you are creating something, you are putting something out into the world, to really think about, why are you actually doing it in the first place? And what is your intention?
Yeah.
And it comes back to, like you just said, with this show, a lot of my intention was around, sort of selfishly, I gain energy from having a one-on-one conversation like this. I will leave this recording and I will feel like I'm operating on a higher energy level for the rest of the day. And it feels good. These are the types of conversations that get me excited. They give me different perspective.
Yeah.
I think, me and my guests can leave with something just from having the conversation. Even if 0 people listen to it.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable that I will have gained something from having a conversation like this. And so I guess it's a good reminder, because I think we live in a world where we see all these massive numbers on social media and on the internet, and it's so easy to compare to big numbers and expect that everything has to be measured in big numbers and big quantities. And yet
100.
There's so much power in the quality of interaction. And if it is that one person, if you have a legitimate impact on someone's day, what a special thing.
Yeah. And with me, I feel so blessed to be like, we have this little gathering of people, right? And we create energy just as you and I are doing. And then those people get to leave after their fitness class and share it with like the person at Starbucks or the person at Costco. Like, we're going to have a great conversation, just you and I, Chad. And then, like you said, to your point, I get to go and interact with my husband and I'm happier, or my kids and I'm happier, because we created this like high vibe energy. And then our goal, my goal, is to share it with the world. It's not for me. Sure, it's selfish. I'm going to take a little, but I'm vibing high. Now let's go share it and see what happens in our community. And then when the community starts to get on board, they're like, what's the Kool-Aid you're drinking? Let me be a part of it. And the podcast numbers grow and the class starts to grow. What I listen to Chad's podcast, I'm feeling incredible. Tell me about it. Right. And that's how we create positive impact in our communities, in our world, wherever we at Costco, in line, at Starbucks. It's the holidays. Hi, I just went to my class. I'm feeling amazing. Cool. Tell me about it. You look happy.
You just never know, right? You never know what kind of impact you can have on someone. I had a cool story recently where it's a friend of Eileen's. Her name's Robbie. And she had sent a text a few weeks ago that she played an episode of my show. She's a school teacher and she teaches 6th and 7th graders. And she played like a 15-minute segment of one of my episodes where I was interviewing my friend Alan, and he was talking about this process of when he was 15 and he was a designer. He was in this national shoe competition and he created this design and he loved it and he was so excited about it. And his mentor said, it's not good enough. You need to restart. And anyway, she had texted and said that she played that clip for her class of 6th and 7th graders. And it led them to then having a conversation about, failure and what does failure actually mean and how do you define it? And she said that, kids are just like so afraid of failing. And
yeah,
that was just one of those examples where, if I'm just sitting on my computer looking at stats and metrics, that represents one download. It was played one time. And yet you can't get the full understanding that, well, yeah, but what if that one play was in a classroom of 30 kids? And what if that goes to change one of their lives? And stories like that help remind me that just trust, just keep trusting that if you do something with the right intentions and you do something that you believe in, just trust.
Amen. I love that. Just trust. It's going to come back to you. It's like a boomerang, right? We send it out into the world with the best intentions and it's going to come back. And to be able to reach all those children, like, yes, incredible. I just got a coaching opportunity to coach young teenage girls, 2 different teams. And I am so grateful to be able to pour into that demographic. For me to be able to speak to young teenage girls about things that I wrestled with as a young girl, I still wrestle with as a grown woman, to plant a little seed that hopefully as they grow and they wrestle with failure, or they grow and they wrestle with perfection, or they grow and they wrestle with whatever, maybe there's like a little seed. Oh, I remember when Katie was doing burpees and she was like, yes, sir, yes. Because life is going to kick them in the nuts and they need to remember those little, I remember. What a gift.
Tell me a little bit about what are some of those messages that you want to instill into them and maybe instill into someone who might be listening?
Yeah, I mean, my messages are the hardest parts of my classes. I tell my classes that all the time. I was like, I can make up, bicep curl to overhead shoulder press all day. Like I think I dream about that stuff. But my messages, I don't know if your listeners know, but at the space, we infuse a message, something that's on our heart with the movement, because we start to get into the movement with sweat and the layers kind of shed. And we believe that then the story can kind of work its way in a little bit more when the armor is removed, the makeup's off, we're in our zone, we're just trying to breathe, we're just trying to get through. And then you're like, oh, okay. For me, it's always something that I'm wrestling with, or something that I've wrestled with, or I'm still a work in progress. So I never, ever put myself on a pedestal that I am the coach here to teach you a lesson. The girls, I make sure that they know that, like, hey, this is something I'm going through too. Today I'm coaching about perfection. I wrestle with that all the time. Can I show up to a class and it not go right all the time? And then what happens? Then how do you talk to yourself? And it's always just something most of the time that I'm aware of, that I am wrestling with myself, a work in progress. And so let's kind of wrestle with it together, not as a coach, not as a guru, but someone who's working alongside of you.
Tell me more about how do you kind of define the role of coach, or see yourself in the role of coach? Because I think we can all have different kind of assumptions or definitions of what that mean. What does coach, that role, mean to you?
That's a great question. I ultimately feel that I am a motivator. I like to say that I'm a cheerleader, but I did a class about this that Eric Thomas, actually, I don't know if y'all know him, but he's the hip hop preacher. He's from Detroit, actually. He said we surround ourselves with cheerleaders in our lives, right? Yes, people who are always going to be like, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're sweet. Like, those are the people who aren't going to tell you, like, hey, you got like a piece of chia in your tooth, might want to get that out. So as coach, again, I'm trying to help you level up, just as I'm leveling up next to you, but I am motivating you to be like, listen, I think you can push a little harder, and I'm here to do it for you. Pick up a heavier weight. I'm here to push people to go further than they feel that they are capable of, to show, and then through kind of motivating them and nudging them, not as a cheerleader, but as someone who is going to be like a little ruthless and a little nasty sometimes. My job as a coach is to make someone feel like they're capable when they thought they couldn't. When they felt like they weren't capable. Such an amazing job. Such an amazing job. And sometimes I have to be mean coach, like, hey, you can get lower. Hey, you could pick up a heavier weight. Hey, I see in you something that maybe you can't see in yourself, and I'm going to help. I'm going to help bring it out. I'm going to help.
That phrase "seen," that makes me just think about earlier parts of this conversation, and I wonder if that is the essence of coaching, is just seeing people and seeing something in them that maybe they don't see in themselves. Because I think about your parents when you're a little girl going through leukemia. I think about that first coach at Lifetime seeing you and saying, I think you're capable of something. I think of Kelly seeing you in that class and saying, I think you're capable of something. And maybe that's ultimately, that is the role of the coach, is just to see people and just to recognize that they're capable of something that maybe they don't see in themselves. And what a gift, what a powerful role to play.
I mean, we all want to be seen, heard, and validated, right? Seen, heard, and validated. And so knowing that when people come in, to your point, Chad, if we could just make people feel seen, they're going to come back. They want to be around you. And again, if we can serve people in that way, I see you. I see what you're capable of. Give me a high five. I see you. Job done. Job done. Those have been some pivotal roles in my life. You're right. Thank you for pointing that out. Just people seeing me and then me being able to see myself. Sometimes all it takes is a nudge, right? It takes a nudge from someone to just remind you, because we forget.
We do. And like you said, we tell ourselves all these lies. And so sometimes it requires someone else seeing just from a little bit of a different vantage point and saying, I that is a lie that you're telling yourself. And I see that. I see that in you. And I guess it's just a reminder of the role that we can play for other people, as far as if we notice something about someone, if we notice that someone has a gift, if we notice that someone, if it's the way that they can make people feel, or the way that they can, whatever it might be, sometimes we hold those things inside and we say, you have that moment of like, I think I'm going to tell this person. And then, I don't know, you talk yourself out of it. But it just goes to, we talk about some of those pivotal moments in your life where someone sees you and then takes the moment to recognize and say, hey, I think you might be capable of more. And I see that you're putting the work into this. I guess it's just that reminder that it goes back to the idea of impact. We just never know. And so maybe for all of us, it's that reminder. If you see it, if you see something, say something, the classic saying.
Yeah.
But how applicable is that to this situation?
Yeah, I mean, if that lady at Lifetime wouldn't have said, hey, I think you could coach, would I have ever left, like made the leap? I don't know, from front row in the group fitness studio to teaching. I can't really say. I think I would have, but thank you for nudging me. Thank you for bringing awareness that you saw the capability in me, and what a small gift that we can give to so many people every single day. Just like a little compliment, throw it out, right? Do you know how many people, like, my hair is weird, right? It's gray. I went gray early and now it's purple. I just put a purple shampoo in. People come up to me all the time, and it's been great practice for me, Chad, because they'll be like, men, women, all sorts of people. I love your hair. I love your hair. And I say, thank you. Thank you. Just accepting the goodness that people are trying to share with us. I see that you're capable. Thank you. Practice it. Just say thank you, leave it, take it, goodness, share it. It's like hot potato. Take it, pass it.
Because those sorts of things can be hard to accept sometimes, right? Is that something that, did you used to have a more difficult time accepting some of those compliments or people seeing you in a certain way?
100. Again, you asking me to be on the podcast. I'm like, me? Why? People, and like, again, this hair has been, it's kind of weird, but I think it was the universe's way of being like, take the compliment, period. You don't have to be like, thanks, but my hair is just gray and I just do this and right? We want to just make it less than it actually is. Actually, no, I see you. What you have is really cool. Thank you. Period. We want to make it less than. Again, it's our way of like, don't see me. I don't want you to think that I'm cooler than I actually am. I don't want you to think that I think that I'm cooler than I actually am, right? Maybe you're just worthy of being seen, sister.
That's powerful. And inherently, we all are worthy of being seen. And yet how often we forget that. Well, and that's what makes me think back to very early in our conversation. You said coaches need coaching too. And, I guess that makes me think of these sort of blind spots that we create, the things that we can't see in ourselves, the lies that we tell ourselves. And so I guess tell us more about this idea of coaches need coaching too, because similarly, I think it can always be easy to look at someone like you and see you in front of a class and see you delivering these messages and just think like, oh my gosh, I mean, Katie just must have it all figured out. And she doesn't need help like we do. coaches need coaching too. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, God, so much. Well, I'll go back to the being seen thing. My coach helped me to do that very thing. Like, Katie, stop making up a story about it when someone wants to elevate you. Even with you, Chad, she was like, Katie, you're telling yourself a lie when you say, why me? Why me? That's a lie. And that goes back, she helped me to see that maybe it goes back to when I had leukemia of like I'm fine. I'm good. Don't pay attention to me. I don't want to be the weird kid. I don't want to be the bald kid. I don't want to be the sick kid. I'm fine. Leave me alone. Right? I'm fine. I'm good. And how many of us carry that? I'm fine. I'm the martyr. I'll do it. I'll be on the PTO. I'll carry this. I'll go to that party. I'll do this thing. I'm fine. And then it's like, but are you really? Are you really? And I think it takes, we start to feel heavy. And I can start to feel heavy. And I feel blessed that I have this awareness of like, when you start to feel heavy, you got to reach out. You're doing nobody a favor by curing it all. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help my husband. It doesn't help my kids. It doesn't help my community. It doesn't help the people I'm coaching. If I'm feeling heavy, I need to lay it down to someone. Who's the best person to lay it down to? My therapist? Hello. My coach? Hello. Help me. I need help too. And then when I receive the help, I'm able to pour in at a better level. It's just another level, as you said, of perspective, of clarity, seeing things differently than I can see for myself. And then I get to share that. My therapist said X. And then do you know how many people come up to me and say, tell me about your therapist? I have a trainer. My dad was like, why do you have a trainer? You are a trainer. I'm like, because he teaches me things that I don't know. And like, I need to be pushed out of my comfort zone too. Because again, Chad, if I felt like I was good, I'm there, I'm the trainer, I would stay right here, right? So my coach is there to help me level up. Let's go. Pick up a heavier weight. I see you. My therapist is there to be like, hey, Katie, I think there's another level to this. Let's look at it. Let's unpack it. Let's sit with the bag and like start pulling shit out. The coach helps me to see that I'm not there. Coaches need coaches. I'm just Katie. I'm a human just like everyone else. And I think it keeps you humble, right?
You talked about this idea of feeling heavy. I'm curious about how you would sort of describe and how do you become aware for yourself in your own life when that feeling is present? How does that show up, or how do you recognize that?
Personally, it's a lot of rumbling. Of like, oh, this feels yucky. Did I say the right thing? Am I showing up as my highest level self? And I don't think so. Why am I feeling anger? Why am I feeling resentment? Why am I and it will rumble. And it kind of turns into, remember I said that shit storm kind of going around up here. So movement, Chad, has always been my regulator for a lot of that. And I'll go and I'll move and I'll unpack some of it. And if it's still feeling like I'm just feeling down, I'm just feeling down. And people think that since I'm coach and I'm motivator and I'm always like upbeat, no, I'm human. Things feel heavy and it just feels like a shift in the energy. And I think when you're aware in your body and aware of your highest vibrational energy, when it feels a little off, we owe it to ourselves to look at it. I love the analogy of like a car, right? Like every 10,000 miles, we have to get the oil changed. Is it 10,000? I think. I just go when my light tells me.
Depends
right?
on the type of oil, but yeah, that sounds good.
And here's what we do, right? We drive around for a while with the light on. I don't know. I do. And that's kind of what happens to me. It's like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel like kind of sludgy, heavy. And so for me, the movement is going in to get the oil change. It's like, let's pull out the dipstick. Let's move the sludge around. Let's unpack the bag. Let's just like get to the root of some of this stuff that's kind of taking shape. So movement is one of my tools. I sit with myself in the morning, every single morning. I wake up fairly early. The people who know me, they know that don't text me after 9 because I'm sleeping. I will not get back to you. And I'm up at 5:50 in the morning for the most part so that I could be alone with myself. My notebook, my Sharpies, my God, universe, coffee, quiet, kitty, chill. Let's unpack it, and that's most of the time where my classes take shape from the unpacking of what's going on inside, the oil change. And then I go and I move and I shake up the sludge that's kind of taking shape deep down.
Using that car analogy, it's just like those periodic daily oil changes, that periodic maintenance. I've got to imagine stops over time, that buildup that turns into these multi-$1,000, all of a sudden your engine breaks down and stops running. And in those moments of having that daily practice of being still, being slow, checking in with yourself. I don't feel like a lot of people do that.
I don't either. And that, Chad, is one of my missions in life, to let people know how good movement feels if I could get my tentacles on them and just get them in, or get them on virtual, or share my story. It feels so good. Just take a chance. Just take a chance. Just like your car, the sludgier it gets, the shittier it runs. And the shittier it runs, the more things start to like, a body at rest wants to stay at rest. I feel it in myself. I go up north, we go on vacation, and I like to change up the pace. I like to kind of take some days off, but I'll be honest, getting back after 3 days, I'll just change up my movement. We'll hike or we'll walk, but I'm not going balls to the wall. After 3 days of being up north, I get back and I'm like, even just sitting in the car for 4 hours, my hips are kind of crunchy. A body at rest wants to stay at rest. The more we move and we shake and we keep the joints lubricated, it's like, okay, this feels good. And then I take that goodness and I put it into everything I do. It changes the game. And it doesn't have to be high intensity. It doesn't have to. I love all kinds of movement. I love a walk. I love a bike ride. I don't love running, Chad. I give you a lot of credit. It doesn't have to be a burpee. I tell people, come to my class. I don't care what you do. Let's vibe to the music, like step touch, just like move. Be around good vibrational energy, right? Be around good energy. That changes the game.
What is your, what is your message to people as far as, I would categorize myself as someone who has had sort of a difficult relationship with movement throughout my life. There's been times where I've found ways that maybe I've liked moving, or it's been a consistent part of my life for a while. It wasn't recently. This whole, this running journey that I've been on recently. If you asked me 2 months ago, how do you feel about running? I would say I absolutely hate it. It is the worst thing in the world. I used to just joke when we'd be driving around or traveling and I'd see people out on runs and I'd be like, I don't know what that person is doing. I'm not sure why they would ever choose to do that. So I don't know, what's some of your message to people in how do they find that movement or overcome? I guess like for me, it's a vulnerable place to be. You've got to go out there. You've got to move. If you're in front of other people, you've got to see what you're sort of capable of and test some of that and be pushed to your limits. And it's not something we're really used to. So how do we overcome some of that to try to welcome movement into our lives or find a style of movement that we like or enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I get everything you're saying. Fitness is a vulnerable space. It's one of the reasons I love group fitness, because I feel like as much as you feel like, oh, this is so embarrassing, you're going to walk into a room and there's going to be someone who's going to be like, hi, how are you? How was your day? And you're like, oh, wow. Okay. I don't know. I guess I'm here. All right. She's doing it. I can do it. Let's go. Let's try it. I guess my first word of advice would be take the first right step. Put your sneakers on, right? I've heard like put your sneakers on and go sit in the parking lot. That's the first step of getting your butt to the gym. Okay, I got this far. Maybe tomorrow I show up, sneakers, and I make it into the gym. I take a peek around. Okay. Just like, I know it's not easy, so I don't want to be like, it's for everyone. Everybody should love it. Try everything, try everything. Find a buddy. I think the buddy system is the very best to kind of dial down the insecurity when it comes to movement. My neighbor, Susie, was the one who introduced me to Kelly. She's like, let's go to yoga. And I was like, oh, I don't do yoga. No, I'm like, I am a heavyweight girl, like burpees. Let's go. I'm like, nope, not going to yoga. She's like, let's try it. I'm like, fine, I'll try it. Because you told me, you asked me. She's like, I think you'll really like it. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go. And I went and it was 158 degrees and the music was bumping and it was cathartic. And I was like, oh, I like yoga, So it's like, try everything. I've tried running, Chad. It's not my jam. And so many different forms of movement give me so much joy that I'm like, I'd rather go to the things that bring me joy. And I've said in my classes many times, listen, if you're here and this is like not your jam and you're just showing up because you feel like you need to show up to work out, leave. It's got to bring you joy or you're not going to do it. If it's not fun, it's another thing I remind myself about my classes. If it's not fun, if your career is not fun, God, it's going to feel like shit every single day. So I love to walk because I love to be out in the elements. I love to be outside. I love to look at the birds. I love to smell the air. I love to look at the stars at night. I love to crunch my feet in the leaves. I like to ride the bike some days. It's got to bring you joy. And so my advice would be A, find a buddy. B, find something that brings you joy. C, if it doesn't, not the right fit. Swipe, find something different. There's a ton of virtual platforms, which I love now since COVID. One good thing about COVID, right? It's like we all went virtual. So if you're feeling like intimidated or shy, you can work out at home and start there and then be like, oh, I really like this. Maybe I can take one foot into a gym. And I guarantee you it's not as scary as it seems. I'm not that scary.
I really resonate with that message of finding some form of movement that, that works for you, that is fun, that is enjoyable. Yeah. I think for me, that was my struggle for a long time, was that I felt like movement had to look like going to the gym for an hour, doing sets and if I'm going to run, I'm going to run on the treadmill. And I never liked it. I never enjoyed it. And through this running process, I got pretty intentional about what kind of movement do I generally think, or like, what are some of the surrounding things that are important to me that might support the movement? And so for me, like I'm huge on, I love being outside. I love getting the fresh air. I like walking. I like hiking. And so I was like, well, I think if I can incorporate some of these things that I do naturally enjoy. I hate running on a treadmill. I hope I never have to run in a treadmill for the rest of my life. But when I can go outside, I also love just when I'm in new places, I love seeing things. And it's like, I will go for a multi-mile walk through a city and just walk every block so I can feel like I saw it. And so for me, it was just kind of layering on and building, well, if I like being outside, I like seeing things. Okay, well, maybe I could see more things if I'm running. And maybe it would feel good to be moving my body in that way outside. And so I guess I really resonate with that message of, finding a style of movement that works for you. And it doesn't have to look like one of your classes. It doesn't have to look like going to the gym. It doesn't have to look like running. It could be swimming. It could be so many different things. But I think there is something out there for everyone. And if we just kind of let down that expectation that it has to look a certain way.
Amen. And I love that you push past like you feeling like, oh, golly, I hate running, to get to the point where you're like, this is actually kind of enjoyable. We have to kind of get past the point of, people will come to my class for the first time. And they're like, oh, I was sore for like 4 days. I'm like, sweet, give it some time. See what happens. Anything new at first is going to be like, gotta like get a little adjustment period. So bravo to you. That's really incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, the other thing I've learned through the process is that what I hated about running was the way that I approached running, which was I thought running meant every time I go out and run, I run as fast as I can for as long as I can. And I'm looking for, speed and distance. And those are the only two metrics that matter when I go run. And that was always my approach to it. And it's like, well, no wonder I hated that. Yeah. And so from like a coaching standpoint, I ended up finding the Nike running app, and they have this kind of like built-in audio guided coach, and he would go with you on the run in your ears and coach you through the run. And his whole thing was just about like, it's about having fun. It's about feeling good. It's like, if you're out of breath, if you're exhausted, if you're tired, guess what? Just slow down. And you'll probably have a lot more fun, and you'll probably enjoy it. And if you enjoy it and have some fun, you'll probably want to do it again. And so a lot of this for me has been unlearning some of this process that maybe in the long run, going as fast as possible, as far as possible, right off the get-go, maybe that's actually not the best recipe for sustainable, consistent output over time. And now all of a sudden, here I am in the last 2 months, I think I've ran almost 50 miles, and I've never done that before in my life. And it's been at a more slower, sustainable pace. And what do you know? I found a level of consistency. Interesting. It's
so cool. Oh, golly, it says my battery's running low.
Okay. So we're back. I don't remember where we were at, but I guess we were finishing the conversation about running, finishing the conversation about, just finding movement that works for you, that feels good for you. So I guess that'll transition us into, if people wanted to come try one of your classes and they wanted to come move with you and see if that style of movement would be something that they might enjoy, how can people find you? How can they come to one of your classes?
I would love if anybody wanted to move with me. I am at the Space, if you're from Michigan, in Brighton, Michigan, Monday, Tuesday, Friday. You can find me at discoverthespace.com. Also, we're virtual, so you could actually work out with me anywhere you are, like Eileen does, Chad's wife, all across the country. So as long as you have something to stream me on, you can press record whenever you so choose, wherever you are. I'm always jealous if you're on a beach. I would love to be with you there. So yeah, that's it. And you can follow me on Instagram at Katie Mann Fitness. That's about it.
Mann with 2 N's, right?
Mann, yeah. I used to be No Quit Fit Man, but then I decided that the things that I'm most proud of are the things that I've quit. So name change.
Sounds like a tee up for maybe conversation part 2. That sounds like a whole other podcast episode. Mm-hmm. Katie, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. This has given me a whole new perspective of that mystical voice that I get to hear coming across speakers somewhere on a beach or in the mountains. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for investing time with me. I've found it really, really meaningful.
Same. Thank you so much, Chad, for asking me, for pushing me out of my comfort zone, and for hopefully helping us to reach and serve more people out there.
My friends, thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, would you mind taking a second just to leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on? I would appreciate it. It would mean a lot. Thank you in advance for doing so. And if you want to support the show and support meaningful conversations like these, the link to the Patreon is also in the show notes. I'll be back with another episode next week, the last one of 2023, and we'll see you then.